What's going on, everyone? This is Andrew O'Connell with Pristine Capital coming at you with yet another market recap video. It is March 17th. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. And today we also had Fed Wednesday, so huge day in the markets. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoy this content, and I will continue to make it for you. Today we're going to talk about the price action in the indices. We'll go under the hood and check out our sectors and style factors. We'll talk about some of my trades for the day. And we'll wrap up with some options order flow. But before we jump in, quick risk disclaimer. Nothing in this video should be construed as investment advice or recommendations. Please follow your own trading plan, your own risk parameters. And last but not least, do not YOLO your entire account into any one of my trades. All right, so let's jump right in here. Really interesting day of price action. Very choppy. A lot of players, seeing a lot on Twitter, people really expecting the worst out of this Fed meeting today. And we ended up getting something that is a lot better than the worst case scenario everyone was, predicting, foreseeing, etc. We had the S&P 500 close up 0.34% today. We had the NASDAQ QQQ finish up 0.41%. We had the IWM small caps finish up 0.79%. And we had the Dow Jones finish up 0.58%. So we had the small caps leading us today. But when we came in for today's session, you can see the Qs, were down big time. And I actually have calls on the Qs that I purchased down here on this day. So I purchased them, once the Qs made a higher low. And I saw okay, the rise in rates, it's not really impacting the Qs as much as it once was. And yeah, for a moment there, it was all right, am I going to have to get stopped out of my Qs? We were down over 1%. I believe 1.3% was the low for the day. And pretty much as soon as the statement came out, at 2 p.m., the Qs just mooned higher. And it was all that weakness was erased. I read through the statement today. And there were a lot of people saying they're going to start talking about tightening policy. They're going to set expectations. And the language in the statement was pretty much par for the course, exactly what they always say. So we got a bounce off that. And I was looking, when I saw the options order flow today, there were a lot of puts coming in. And people hedging Tesla, hedging the Qs, things of that nature. So I do think there were a lot of shorts that came in with poor location. They might have been okay, this is the big failure for the Qs here, failing in this value area, failing at the 20-day, and maybe they got short. And it seemed like there was, a good short squeeze throughout the day. If we look at these treasury futures, you'll see what I mean as well. So we had the 10-year treasury futures, were down about 0.5% at one point during the day. And it was oh man, this is a pretty serious red candle here. And we ended up, squeezing all the way up here. Ended up closing out with a doji candle. So in the grand scheme, for the 10-year, we closed down 0.05%, pretty much unchanged. So that was definitely the happy path for the way things could have gone for today. And then you can see here, 30-year treasuries, they did sell off and they actually closed with a red candle. But I think what we're seeing is, I've mentioned this a couple times, but there's this narrative of so when bonds really sold off, it was okay, bonds are selling off. Why is it happening? The Qs are selling off with it. NASDAQ, nobody was expecting it. Over the course of the next 2 weeks to a month, this narrative just got ingrained in everyone's heads. Rates are going up, inflation's going higher, and for that reason, NASDAQ is going to crash. And I just think when you get several weeks of the same narrative over and over again, the market adapts to that narrative. It's no longer a big surprise. So I do think there's a lot of people out there that are still all right, where's the crash in the NASDAQ? I'm waiting for it. That's what everybody's been telling me. And, it's just not happening. So we'll have to see, what happens with that, if anything changes. But as of right now, I pointed this out on Twitter a bit earlier, where you have treasuries making lower lows, but then you have the NASDAQ, making higher lows. So that relationship, it kind of broke a little bit. The correlation's not as strong as it was, even a week or two ago. So it's just, important to get an understanding of and wrap your head around. So let's see. Yeah, for our S&P 500 here, you can see that essentially what we've been getting, is just chop and sideways movement for options expiration week, which happens all the time. So nothing really out of the ordinary here. I will say that, we made it past Fed Wednesday without a hitch, really. Finished up 0.23%. I think there's a strong possibility we could test 4,000 on the S&P 500, within the next couple days. So we'll have to see what happens here, but that 4,000 mark is not very far off. So yeah, we'll have to see. That's what I'm looking for in the next few days. So yeah, well, let's take a look. We'll check out our Finviz Heat Map for today. So yeah, you can see on the heat map, this when we opened up for trading, was pretty bloody all around, and breadth improved throughout the day. And you can see, energy had a nice bounce back, industrials bouncing back, banks, and the technology stuff was all looking really bad in the morning. And then the technology parts of the market, they started coming back throughout the day. Micron was really standing out here. So Micron is one that I have a call calendar spread on. The calendar spread, it expires this Friday, at least the short leg of it. And my strike price on my calendar is 95. Right now we're trading at 94.76. So this one I just have a couple days left on this trade. But Micron has been showing relative strength. Like even in the morning it was positive. So yeah, this one looking pretty strong here. And then the other semis, they started to come up as well throughout the day. So if you look at SOX, finished up 1.26%. So yeah, some life came back into technology today. So if we take a look at our sectors and style factors, you will see we ended up with a lot of green today, which is pretty unexpected. We have the blockchain ETF up 5.64%. It is in our top slot in terms of momentum. We have the retail ETF finished up as well. And let's see what else we had. So big day for consumer discretionary, big day for gold miners. They are moving higher on our list here. And then the laggards, we had solar energy lagging. We had the emerging market e-commerce, video games and esports, and utilities as well. Let's take a look at our style factors. And yeah, you can see, this is pretty risk on action here. So we had high beta leading the pack up 1.71%. And then trailing, we had min vol, which is awesome. That's what you want to see. And defensives also trailing. So overall, I would say, successful Fed Wednesday for Powell. He really didn't rock the boat all that much. And, he's sticking to his script where we're going to have inflation. Everyone knows that at this point, that inflation is here, it's coming. But he keeps sticking to his script of we think this is transitory. It's going to come and go essentially. And then he even brought up the SLR ratios, and within the next couple of days, they would have an update on that. I know a lot of people were very concerned about the SLR ratios because that would mean, there's higher capital requirements for banks and less ability to, take on risk. So we'll have to see. That was another thing where when I saw that, I was like, oh, okay, so this is, pretty positive announcement here. Then we'll take a look at my trades for the day. And let me see here. Okay. Yeah, so coming into today's session, I had taken off some risk yesterday just to come in a little bit lighter. That way I wouldn't feel pressure, if this Fed day ended up turning the other way, if it turned for the worst. So I was in a pretty comfortable spot. I closed out a third of my apps for $80.21. I've added to this position over time, so my combined cost basis is about $79.09. I just closed out a third of it. I had a pretty big position, and just wanted to sell some into this rip. I closed out my trading account. I had some Roblox. I bought on IPO day. I closed out for $72.50. I or I closed it out for 76.98, excuse me, and I paid 72.50 for those shares. I took a shot at some AA. They had an upgrade earlier on in the day. This one was actually challenging, and I think this is one of the issues with like trading on a Fed day. It can be a pretty tough environment. So like AA, this stock here, if you take a look, so this one, did a little bit of a rope-a-dope today. So like if you pull up the hourly chart, I got this one on a pullback to this 5-day EMA. And I was like, hey, the stock just got upgraded, looking pretty strong here. The stock ended up just going into like a short-term downtrend throughout the day. And you can see like we broke the 20-period moving average. Then we broke below the 50 by 11 o'clock. And then it was like, okay, we bounced up against the 20 and the 50-day, and then we fell lower and fell lower again. So what I did was I was like, we ended up trading below this weekly value area. And I was like, this thing turned into a downtrend, so that's not really what I'm looking for. So I ended up closing on this pop here, as we were testing that 50-day again. So I closed out pretty much right here. This thing ended up continuing higher. So that's just going to happen sometimes. With this one, I was like, I'm just going to do the prudent thing and close it out. Yeah, this one kept moving a little bit higher. So yeah, that one I think is just like an interesting case study, where it was like the trend was up, then the trend turned down, and then the trend reverted back to up. So that was like, a tough one to trade. So let's see. Yeah, so pretty much scratched that one. Opened it up for 370, closed it out for 355. I got long some Microsoft calls. Once I started to see the strength in tech after this Fed meeting, so took those long. I entered some Plug June 18th puts. And Plug, they actually just announced that they were going to have to be like, redoing their financial statements. So there might be like some some just like falsehoods within their statements. So I took this one, I added a put into it, just really as a hedge for some of my other longs. And, just because I think there might be a little bit more to this story as it unfolds. And, we have this VPOC down here at 27.32. So that would be like my target for my short there. And then I added one other trade. I added back my GM. So GM, I had some calls, that worked really well for me last week. I closed those calls out, and I've been watching it ever since. And GM ended up having a really nice move into the close. So I got long some June 18th calls, and this one is pretty good. Let's see, GM. Yeah, so GM, I entered GM, I believe, on this candle right here. And we got a pop 2 days later, and I was like, what? I'm putting the money in my pocket, closed out. We had 2 days of give back. And then this one, once we started getting close to clearing the prior day's high, right around here, I added some calls, and we got some nice follow-through into the close. So I want to see if GM can make, higher highs over the next few days. So we'll see what happens with GM. I have a target level here at around like $63 that I am going to be looking for. So that about does it for this recap video. Oh wait, let's take a look at some of our options order flow before we go. Oh my gosh, what is this coming in? Oh man, so yeah, if you see what I mean here, in the morning, we were seeing lots of put flow coming in. So like IWM, Tesla, Qs. This is actually, they were shorting the VIX. So these guys, they were pretty bullish. But yeah, they were shorting ARK. And I was just watching this and I was like, shorting ARK ahead of this Fed meeting is like such an obvious trade. I was like, is this really going to work? I don't know. I was pretty skeptical. That's why I held on to my Q's calls. But yeah, you can see they were pretty bearish throughout the day. And then, things started to get a little bit more bullish in the afternoon once the price action really turned. So you can see some Airbnb calls, some Microsoft. And the Microsoft came in after, I made my purchase. So I was like, all right, let's go. Yeah, and then some Tesla calls as well. So I'll have to see how this price action plays out for the rest of the week. But we did make it past the dreaded Fed Wednesday, and now we can all enjoy our St. Patty's Day. So hope you all have a great rest of your evening, and I will see you all tomorrow in the pre-market webinar.